Good evening and slash afternoon. The time is about 4 p.m. on a Monday afternoon, and as you may have remembered, this is the Fourth Estate, Brunel University's news talk show, the one and only news talk show, and today it's me, the host, Jim Wong, and as usual, it's been a long break. We got a long Christmas break where we didn't have any shows, which is sadly because I miss talking to you guys. And now we're back in the year 2015. 2014 was a very busy year. We've had massive stories happening in that year, and I don't think 2015 is going to change at all. I think it's only January, and we've already had massive news such as Charlie Hebdo, as well as the Boko Haram, and it's going to go crazy. Hopefully won't be such scary and terrifying news as the month of January, and hopefully we can have more happy news, I think. That'd be nice to have. And today I'm joined by a lineup of guests, wonderful, who you actually haven't heard, except one very special woman. We are joined by 4 females, and let's just have you guys know who they are. Go from left to right, girls.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm half French, half Austrian, and I'm an international journalism student at Brunel.
Hi guys, I'm Federica. I'm Italian, and I'm an international journalism student at Brunel.
Hi guys, I'm Pai. I'm from China. I'm an international journalism student.
Hi, my name is Camilla. I'm from Norway, and I'm an international journalism student at Brunel.
All right. I don't know what's going on with that sound levels, guys. It's driving me mad. Anyway, I miss all of you. Haven't had this show for a very long time. All right, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Sunday Times front page. The headline goes, "Pupils at risk from Islamic extremists." They've got one image of chaos as fire shuts Channel Tunnel. So it's a bit of a weird front page, as usual, the Sunday Times, I think. It's kind of hard to really recognize what is the top issue and news of the week, of the day, actually. So, firstly, the first one, pupils at risk. So the concerns are over Islamic extremism. They're put that children remain at risk for radicalization in school despite attempts to crack down on the alleged Trojan horse plot to Islamicize teaching in Birmingham state schools. Islam, it's always going to be a hard thing to cover, any issue to do with, Muslims and individuals in Islamic communities. And because they're so big in the UK, it's hard to think about how best to ever cover this kind of issue. But do you even think schools are at risk for being converted to Islamic extremism? Are we somehow so naive, all of our students and our young individuals of the UK, to think that they can be easily converted into Islamic extremism?
Apparently, I think there might be, or it happens, like happened in Birmingham, because the Trojan horse was an operation, an inquiry brought out from the Sunday Times around March, the 2nd of March, so quite a while ago. And we have the same problem again. We have been the same problem since ISIS actually came up, because the Muslim community in UK is growing. But the problem is not actually the Muslim community at all, like in the total. It's just in part, because it's true, apparently, from control that the Ofsted has done, so the Office for Standards and Education, apparently there are schools that focus all their teaching programs on religion and on the Islamic teaching, cutting off arts, cutting off any other activities or any other referment at religions and differences. So that might be an issue, I think.
Yeah, I want to jump in anytime. Go ahead.
I think, of course, it's not good to to focus only on teaching on Islam, but I think and cut out on arts and other subjects. But I think it is very important, actually, at that stage, especially with very young people, to teach them about the difference between Islam and terrorism, and that it's not all Muslims, of course, are terrorists. And I think the fact that many young people, actually already like 14, 15, 16-year-old youngsters, are actually very attracted to groups like the jihad and that you have to. It is like our responsibility to draw the line between extremism and the religion, because it's not the same. And
Yeah, you're
so-
totally right.
So I think this is one main point you should focus on school.
I think all types of extremists when it comes to religions are bad. It's not only Islam, it can be Christianity, it can be anything. So as long as they're taking a radical view at it, I think at schools they should learn about all the religion the same amount and then compare for themselves. But I also think it's important for the schools to have an offer of a wide range of activities that students can do after school instead of being drawn to these extremist groups.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Most of all because they came to UK, and so it's good from us respect their cultural, their culture and their religion. But at the same time, I think that they came here, so they need to get to know our culture as well and respect us as well. I think is a meeting. So that's why I think that this kind of school needs to be checked. If this report is true, but this has nothing to do with Muslim in general. This needs to deal with just extremism and nothing else.
That is true, I think. It's not about, Islam and Western values. I think
No.
it's about everyone understanding everyone. Because look, they said that they found people who don't know the difference between Sharia and British law. See, I don't like how they differentiate between Sharia and British law, because I think at some point they do overlap. I think it's good to know what is Sharia law and what is British law. But what about other laws, What about other stuff, people who have religion? Look at, the Bible, other religions that have laws on their own community. It's always this thing which people, after Charlie Hebdo, people were saying, if you don't like being mocked for your religion, you can leave the country, which I think is it's a bit weird, because they said that these individuals have failed to integrate into Western society. I've got issue with that by saying is that what about integrating into Eastern society? Why is it that has to be one way or the other? As in, most people go into country have to integrate into Western society. I think the world becomes so globalized that it's never about East or West. It's just now a global society. But I want to talk to you guys a bit, because you guys come from such different international backgrounds. In school, were you ever taught about religious laws? And if so, what kind of religions?
In Austria, most people are Christians. So we have in school we have crosses on the walls, which I consider not very good, because not everyone in my class was Christians. So we basically had a religion course, which you could join, but you didn't have to. But there was no alternative for Muslim students. Only one called ethics, which was for everyone else. So everyone else interested in religion. But I think at that young stage you can't really choose, and I think that's why now, for example, in Austria, they try to actually push forward this general religion course, which is not only about Christian religion, but called ethics, and explaining and discussing basically all religions, because I think, in my opinion, religion should actually be something private and not something you impose on others if they like or not.
I do agree with that, and it's really funny actually your fact that you brought up this issue of the cross in the class, because in Italy, obviously, come on, we have the Pope in Rome, so we are obviously considered one of the most Catholic country. But there was this issue as well. It was 1 year ago, I think, and there was a huge debate. Someone was defending the position of keeping it, someone was against, but there was a huge debate. However, our hour of religion is not compulsory anymore during secondary school. I think it was during primary, but it's still not just Catholic religion what they teach. I remember even when I was in secondary school and I was attending, that we were more talking about philosophy and ethics and different religion and comparing different religion and news. So it became quite interesting and including even for people that were actually maybe atheists. They weren't professing any religion. But I think that mainly depends from the professor and like the teacher that you're gonna have, because that was really influenced. I met many different persons that were actually using the hours that they had at disposition in complete different way.
I'm from China, but I think most Chinese people don't have a religion. But in some parts of China, for example, like Xinjiang or Tibet, they have religions like Muslims or Islam. But the thing is, like, most of us don't have a religion, so when we're in the school, no one teaches us what is Muslim, what is Islam. So when something happened in Xinjiang, like some rebels, so most Chinese people think, okay, Islam is really dangerous. It's kind of a dangerous religion. So, but that is not true. So I think it's the lack of the education which leads to the misunderstood of the religion.
All right, and lastly, Camilla, about you. What do you think? What about your religious upbringing and your education?
I'm an atheist, so I don't really believe in any religion, and I think state and church should stay separated. We had a module in class from 1st to 10th grade that learned us about every religion. So it wasn't like a majority of Christian religion. We learned about all the religion. I remember we had a presentation about Hinduism, and so I kind of specialized in that. And yeah, most of the people in my class, they're of course Christian, but it's not an extreme. People don't go to church in Norway. That's more old
Not
people
that
do that.
The Italians and the Austrians, they go to church, not the Norwegians.
We go to church, but it's quite it's different. You know, now you accept, and in my family, for example, like it's just a small example, but I have a brother and a stepbrother, and he's really religious. At the same time, the other part of my family, from my mom and my daddy, they are not. Mm-hmm. But it's just accepted, you know. You make your own choice. That's how it is.
That is true. All right, just to close, and if you have anything else you want to add, a little report by INSTED, in Service Training and Educational Development, INSTED. They wrote a little report on the Trojan horse affair in Birmingham, and it's always an issue of Islamic extremism. They never talk about it on the other side, those who are afraid of Islam and Muslims. They never talk about Islamophobia, because we're so prone to Islamophobia nowadays, I think, in the world. And the net's noise is going to kill me today. So they said that there needs to be more recognition in schools for British Muslim identities, more attention to issues such as bilingualism, more commitment to the human right to freedom of religion, and more attention to Islamophobia, and closer bonds with parents and community, and also a bond between parents and communities, because with the media nowadays, it's all about Islamophobia. They just want to perpetrate that difference between Islam and, non-Islams. See, with the media today, they always present, all Muslims are the same. Which they're not. Not all Muslims are one community, just like not all people in Britain believe in UKIP or, Tories or Labour. That's what makes the UK a democratic nation. And so people can recognize that just because one Islamic individual chooses to bomb and commit acts of violence doesn't mean their entire nation does as well.
No, absolutely not. I was checking out the Twitter feed of one of my favorite correspondents, I think in the morning, and she's in Syria. She's living at the border right now. And she was talking about this amazing fact that she left Syria a couple of months ago. And when she left Syria, there was a terroristic group that was considered the worst. So everyone was kind of trying to protect themselves against them. And now she came back and she found out that this is not the most horrific group anymore. So this is the group that is helping the population now, because there is another one group. And this is really funny, because we call them terrorists the same, but they have different name for different group, apparently different view and something, because if not, they would have been all together. But we don't know about that, and we so easily generalize about the things just because it's something different and is easier frame it like something that is like really hard for you.
It was kind of fun. Rupert Murdoch, he actually went out and said that all Muslims should be responsible for the Charlie Hebdo. And J.K. Rowling, she wrote a tweet following that statement saying that she was brought up as a Christian, but she can't take responsibility of the actions of Rupert Murdoch. And I think that pretty much sums it all up.
Yeah,
Ooh, burn. That is really
I think she got the point, definitely.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, people in England, hello, you've done stuff as well, not just, Islam. How about the Crusades, You've conquered countries, you've colonized individuals.
Oh,
they might be for the better, obviously, saying, brought civilization. But things did happen, You can't... Are you going to be held responsible for all those actions, those past actions? Because if so, there's a lot going on in the world you could be responsible for.
Anything. Yeah, no.
You gave me a look.
No, but what I think is one of the main points, and I feel that not only, I mean, I know in my country it's a lot this way, but I assume, or I found that it's actually a general thing. So now I will generalize that the thing is, people are, I think, racist, Islamophobic, all of these nice things because they just fear the unknown. So I think if they would actually read more about this foreign culture or travel to these places and see that not every Muslim is like Osama bin Laden, or if you would actually get in touch with them and not only talk about these bad Muslims, but actually have a conversation with them, ask them why things are this way or that way, and maybe they would have questions as well, like why the hell would you have crosses on the wall if you have your belief in your heart? And I think there's a huge misunderstanding between cultures, and this makes it possible to actually have this fruitful ground for fear and terrorism, and because otherwise if everyone would actually be interested in each other's culture, there would be no ground for all these misunderstandings.
Yes, when the Charlie Hebdo happened, many Chinese people also retweet I am Charlie, but some people in Xinjiang who are Islam, they wrote an article called "I'm sorry, I'm not Charlie." They want people to know more about them. They want people to know that they are not dangerous. They're normal people. They just have a different religion. That's not mean that all of them are dangerous. All of them are doing bad things.
Right, you know what? Let's talk about Charlie Hebdo because it's not really on the headlines, so why don't we do that? Charlie Hebdo. So if you haven't actually heard, there's a shooting at the magazine, a satirical magazine, Charlie Hebdo. And that's obviously one issue because and then after that shooting, they have had an issue in which they put a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, showing a sign saying all is... it said "Je suis Charlie," which means I am Charlie, and with a little French saying all is forgiven, which I don't know what all forgiven is in French. So there's several issues in that respect that I have an issue with. One of them is people saying because last week Sky did an interview with a journalist from Charlie Hebdo, and she said, I don't understand why people in Britain, they do not print Charlie Hebdo image. You are not with me. You are not, as journalism, as journalists, you should be with Charlie Hebdo and support freedom of speech. And because you are not supporting my image and my cover means you are not with me and you are not with freedom of expression. I have an issue with that. Just because I support freedom of expression and freedom of speech doesn't mean I support Charlie Hebdo. I respect what they're doing and see they have a right to say whatever they want, but it doesn't mean that I should support what you publish, you know?
I do agree with your point. I can understand it. Like, there were many papers and many networks. They were supporting their freedom to publish, but they weren't publishing it because in their code of practice was actually saying like, oh, this is not exactly fitting in, so we won't do it. And I do respect this, even if sometimes, like, for example, the position of the Guardian and the Independent of putting the images inside the paper the day before of the publication of the official cover, when anyway the cover was everywhere on Twitter and visible to everyone. I do agree with their point, and I understand their point of doing it for, because it's news, it's part of the news. It has this meaning. So there are 2 points, and I'm a bit puzzled about it. I do not agree to cut on freedom of expression at all. But at the same time, if you have a code of practice, I can understand that you can stick on it.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, anything else you want to add before I...
Yeah, I think what I dislike about... Because I read an article which was called What If Charlie Hebdo Happened in Britain? And then they listed points why like that in Britain you wouldn't be able to publish it, and there is a campaign called #Cover Charlie Hebdo, so that you wouldn't offend anyone with the covers in the shop and everything. And so the thing is, and I think some may not really understand this, or I feel like they don't, because Charlie Hebdo, even though it's very provocative, and of course journalism bear responsibilities and have responsibilities, but their magazine is like making fun of everyone. It's like not only about Muslims, not only about Mohammed. They're like showing... I don't know, the Pope in disgrace situations.
Is that true? Because I've heard actually about it, that they were on the side of the immigrants completely, and their favorite one to make joke about it was actually the Front National of Marine Le Pen.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Say that again, that again. Say that French word again.
Le Front National?
Nice.
Yeah.
Was it wrong?
No,
I
it's
just like the way
right.
you, like, it's a bit of culture on our show, more French words that continue.
Yes, of course, everyone is making fun of this woman. She's just ridiculous and no one can really take her seriously. But the problem is that that she's actually getting a lot of votes now, because people are afraid and people feel like, oh my God, like what did our country become? But this is, I think, why Charlie Hebdo is so important, because they pick up topics and are provocative, but most French people just know that it's for fun, it's entertainment, it's nothing, it's like not where you get your news from. You have to know what you're getting when you buy that paper.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
To be honest, I hadn't heard about Charlie Hebdo before the shooting. I didn't know anything about it because I can't read French. But after, I totally support what they do. But I think a lot of politicians that have traveled to France and are walking in the streets, they didn't like what Charlie Hebdo represented before it. And it kind of shows a double moral in a lot of people, because they're in the limelight now and they get publicity because of it and they're taking advantage of it. And I think that is wrong.
But I think they have to do it because it's like, I mean, freedom of speech is like part of democratic values. So if they wouldn't be in the streets, everyone would be like...
I think someone among them shouldn't have done it. Because, for example, South Arabia now, they are jailing a blogger because he was writing something not exactly...
Yeah, Raif Badawi.
I mean, I can understand that the French president was there. I can understand other
Merkel.
president was there. Yeah, can't remember.
Well, no,
They were 50.
Obama never came.
No,
He was watching NFL. There was a really important match during that evening. He was watching NFL. Okay, everyone has his own priority.
Yes. Coming back to Kimina's point, there is such a huge commercial thing to this, I think. This printing 3 million copies compared to that thing that are 60,000 copies. They're earning money from this event, which is, I see why it's good to do, but they're doing this thing, which is really, I find annoying because there is, I don't know how to put it into words, but their image is important. That image of Prophet Muhammad holding that saying "all is forgiven," which is a good sign to Muslim people, saying we forgive you for killing our journalists and killing our cartoon writers. But people buying it, because people buy it, I think, I said on NPR, it's because it's a historical issue. Not because they support it, the things. And I think you can support the issue, support the magazine, without buying the actual paper, because then they earn money from this. And and that's such a huge thing, because having it printed in UK and having it sold isn't the same as saying I support freedom of expression. That's saying I support Charlie Hebdo and I want to buy that issue. And I think it's such a huge different argument to be having about. I don't know how to put it in words. It's just, there is such a commercial part of this magazine.
But what is very weird, I think, that even in this moment, which should actually be, because now I think they issued like 5 million copies, and they issued 5 million copies, and then they, or even more, and now they actually sell it on eBay. For like 400 euros one issue.
I've seen, trust me, I've seen a picture on Twitter. There was, I think, was 100 sterling. So maybe in euro is even more now. But yeah, they were actually selling it back. Yeah.
Since it's not sold everywhere, people are making actually money out of the fact that, okay, I sell you something which is worth like, I don't know, I guess €2.50 for 400 or 100 or 80 even. It's, I think,
very
macabre.
Going a bit too far.
Yeah.
You're going a little bit too far with that.
A little bit too far.
Just a little bit.
What about you, Pan? I mean, not to really put any stereotypes, but I mean, coming from China, there's a huge issue of freedom of speech and freedom of journalists in China. I mean, what do you make of this?
I think for in China, we all want freedom of speech, obviously, but I think many Chinese people took this chance to say okay, we Chinese people also want the freedom of speech. We also want our, magazines or newspapers to write what they really want to write, or not what the government wants there to write. But the thing is, I think many people support these things, but we still need to think about the Muslims, about the Islams. I think if all the people are support this magazine or support people to buying this magazine, some Islams feel that they are offended. They think all the words are against them. All the words, I think, they are dangerous. So it put some Islams or Muslims in China feel really, really bad about these things. So it's kind of...
I'm quite curious, actually. Did you read something about Charlie Hebdo in Chinese? On your paper back home, do you have any ways to read your paper back home?
No, we don't have. Definitely, we don't have a Charlie Hebdo because
not selling it there, but they might have talked about it.
Yeah,
they might have covered the news and.
But we don't put it as a really, really important news.
Okay, it was inside, kind of covered.
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious about the position of Charlie Hebdo.
But I think that's a really interesting point. People buying the issue don't really recognize that the effect they could have on the Islamic community. Many people buying the magazine support, saying that it could alienate people who weren't really feeling more extremist to be now more extreme, because people saying they think, oh, people who buy this issue, they think we're complete trash. People who buy the issue, people who you're saying, people who are Islamic, they could think, how many people bought the magazine and they support their views. Therefore, they think they view Islam as a bad thing, and then they could go into ISIS and commit more terrorist attacks because they feel more out of touch of the world. And I just say to people, when I just think as an advice is when you ever support anything that's going out viral or anything that's going to be in the event, be aware of what effect you're having on individuals who don't support your view. People who might think differently from you, because that could have an effect in the future. Do you guys agree?
But you can't always make your decisions up to what would a terrorist do if
No, of course
you
not.
dislike. Like, I mean, this shouldn't stop you from saying what you want to say.
Exactly. But I think
true.
just be aware of it. You can't, and it's just when you support something, be aware of what's happening when you support something, right? I mean,
Yeah, be aware of what you're tweeting or what you're supporting, because I bet that half of the people that started tweeting, I am Charlie Hebdo, then they didn't exactly know what the magazine was. They probably didn't know about the threat that the editor received back in 2011, and they didn't know about a lot of the context. And so it was mainly against instead of pro-freedom of speech. Then it became, and then they analyzed the question and it became. But I think that at the very beginning, it's probably a reaction of fear against Muslim. And that's why I think it's really important and underline that there were two hashtags that they went viral. And one was I'm Charlie Hebdo, Je suis Charlie, but the other one, it was I am Ahmed. That was actually the cop that has been shot in front of the place of Charlie Hebdo, and he was a Muslim. So this just demonstrates the fact that they are not just against Christian or not against Charlie Hebdo in itself. It was a symbol, but they are not all Muslim. The all Muslim community against the Westerners is not the position.
exactly. We're not standing against Islam, we're standing against violence and terrorism. Make that clear. Right. We want to cut to a quick song, and then when we come back, we want to cover the rest of the front page headlines, because we're already 1/4 into our show. And we'll talk about the Eurostar terminal being shut down due to a fire. This is the Horror State on Radio Brunel University student-run station. Welcome back to Radio Brunel, and you're listening to the Horror State on Brunel University student-run station. If you're just tuning into us now, this is a news show that tells you about the news and top news of the week and the biggest events that ever happened across the world. And of course, we're more than just covering the news, we'll talk about discussing it and the issues, because as journalists always have a decision to make about whether to report it and how to report it. And with the Mail, the Guardian, the Independent, Telegraph, the New York Times, Al Jazeera, each stuff has their own editorial standard and each their own editorial code. It's always an issue of how to report it. And as aspiring journalists who hope to get into the industry eventually, these are things we got to consider on a daily basis, because we're more than just consuming news. We're meant to analyze the news. We're meant to think about how these news can affect the world, and how do we, when we cover it, affect the reality of the world. So, we just talked about Charlie Hebdo, a big issue for us as journalists, about freedom of expression and terrorism and Islam. And we also talked a bit about schools being assessed by Ofsted, and saying that these schools have to be taught more about the difference between Sharia law and British law, and make individuals more aware of British society and non-Islam values, because there's a fear or of a higher increase in Islamic extremism happening in schools. Now we're cutting to a more issue that I think affected more people over the weekend, is that the Eurostar terminal, they closed after a lorry fire happened on Sunday. Long queues at Eurostar terminal as thousands are stranded with more delays as one channel tunnel remains shut after a lorry fire. The firm has strongly advised passengers to come in person only if they were booked on a specific seat, with all trains delayed by up to an hour as one of the twin tunnels remain shut. Now, before we talk about the compensation about this, today I am joined by four lovely women, Amelie, Federica, Pand, and Camilla, who are all both international journalism students. And it's an international show this week, our first show of the semester, and 3 out of 4 people on this guest are from Europe. And I'm sure you guys have been on the Eurostar before, haven't you?
Yes,
No.
many times.
Not Federica?
Sorry,
That's
keep
fine.
flying.
You keep flying? Sorry, we cannot all afford flight tickets.
Oh yeah, Ryanair loves me. I'm sorry for this advertising.
You cannot plug Ryanair, Marcia. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, this thing about people being stranded, it's a big story. But I'm curious, what is the issue here? Like, what?
I think they were like fearing at the very beginning about like another terrorist attack or something instead of just a little fire.
Yeah, it's a fire. Everyone start running.
I think that was the main fear though.
So Eurostar is going to face a compensation bill running into the millions. Aside from the cost of refunding tickets and laying on an extra service at 8 a.m. on Sunday, it was offering passengers £250 to £50 for meals, £50 for taxis, and £150 for a London hotel. I'm curious, why is Eurostar paying this bill? Because the lorry caught on fire. How is the lorry linked to the Eurostar? Why isn't the lorry company paying for these stuff?
I think it's refunding them then to have back. I mean, like, customer satisfaction is their main point, I guess. They are making probably loads of money because, as Emily told me when she got the train, it's definitely handier than a flight. So why do not keep the line of the customer satisfaction when they can? Because they probably can. They wouldn't have done it. In this case, like, there was an accident, they want to just keep it as smooth as they can, so they just pay back, not a lot of complaint, everything is gonna start again. I think that's their line.
Would you guys seek for compensation if a fire happened in your train and you were like, I'm delayed, I want to go out to Paris or to London? Would you say, Eurostar, you owe me money? Would you guys do that? Just curious.
Yeah, of course. I mean, honestly,
I want free money.
No, but I'm on a student budget. Like, if I pay my train to Paris or to London, and then the tunnel is on fire and I can't do the trip, because I walked past St. Pancras yesterday or through, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, what are they queuing for? And it was like the queue went from the Eurostar checkpoint until the tube, which was like incredible. And you saw like all these bored faces and everyone on their iPads, iPhones, discussing. And I was actually kind of amused, which sounds evil, but
It's true. You're like,
but while watching, I was just like, oh, you poor little things. I'm going to get a coffee now. and then I saw it cost us that I actually didn't have to queue. So I was like, wow, it must be my lucky day. But then in the end, the Metropolitan line didn't work. So I guess karma is a bitch and I got it back.
indeed. But you guys, Pan and Camilla, what do you think about that? I mean...
Well, I was in Surrey last weekend, and the train didn't go, and this was announced and planned and everything. But I mean, it's a difference between like booking a ticket and knowing that it's going to be delays. But I think people going from England to France, they are used to delays, and they shouldn't make such a big fuss about it. Like, it's delays all the time, especially on the tube and in weekends.
Oh, come
But
on.
Eurostar doesn't have... Like, I took the Eurostar already like 4 times. It was never delayed, always punctual.
I've been in France, and I was getting back to London, and I was waiting at the station for 4 hours.
Okay.
So,
But
yeah.
I think it's the same, you know, like if a flight is delayed or is cancelled, you ask for another flight, okay?
Yeah.
And you're not gonna pay the double price for the ticket or anything else if you're not, like, if it's not your fault. And outside there is a snowstorm or whatever. So I think it's the same. Why they shouldn't have done it?
I'm just curious, but I mean, I want to know where the lorry's from, because So a smoldering load was found on a border truck which was being carried in one of the vehicle shuttles, and although the fire was not serious, the tunnel is still being checked for damage.
It's quite funny that they do not mention anything else about the lorry, actually.
Yeah, because where the lorry, what was it carrying? Well,
Yeah.
why was it on fire? Was there people smoking on the terrain? What was happening? You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's really curious. Because they do not talk about it. They keep talking about a compensation.
And
They keep
Eurostar,
talking
yeah.
about Eurostar, solution for Eurostars, 2 tunnels open, 1 tunnel's open. But no one is actually caring about that lorry.
Yeah.
Maybe they just don't know it yet that well.
Yeah. So I'm going to say we should have 3 tunnels now, not just 2. 3 is better than 2. I don't know. Add some more money, people got to pay. Moving on to our next headline by the Daily Telegraph, which on Sunday is called The Sunday Telegraph. The headline goes, convicted terror leader with link to Paris who we cannot deport. So it says a convicted Al-Qaeda fundraiser linked to the recent Paris attacks of Charlie Hebdo is living in the UK. Ministers have been unable to deport Baghdad Menziani, who was jailed for 11 years for terror offences in 2003 because he claims it would breach his human right to a family life.
It's quite funny. I need to say that he has a family in the UK. True, he has a son, I think, and a wife. But it's not enough. It's not definitely enough. Why we're gonna keep someone that will actually blow us up?
Yeah.
In here, like why?
Before we go into that, let's just look at the front page. This is the front page of the Telegraph. The biggest image on the actual page is of the Countess of Wessex at 50.
Because she's blonde.
She's
white.
blonde and wearing a white
She's
shirt
blonde
and
wearing
white.
a white shirt.
Yeah, but yes, she looked good at 50. But put her on a different cover. Put her like at the star section. Why at the front page?
Because they need to sell. They probably need to attract someone with the blonde girl.
But all UK paper does that.
Yeah,
Like-
but I'm also like we always age 58 eventually. Why does she matter?
No, but like this on all front pages, they have one serious story that is their main story, and then they have a big picture of a beautiful person.
It
That's how they sell
was
papers.
on the Sunday Time as well, if I do not make a
No.
mistake.
Well, no, she wasn't. Instead, you got an image
No,
of
not the same picture, but the same image of a blonde girl
Oh, yeah.
turning instead of the main story.
yes.
she's-
The Sunday Times has a woman in a white coat and blonde hair turning back because she's terrified of her train at the Eurostar, who's not able to
Like,
leave.
yeah.
Yes, this is what represents the world, guys. A blonde woman in a white blonde woman. Anyway, back to the Sunday Telegraph. What do you say about that, Amelie?
I've lost the line. Yeah. No, you mean about the cover or the
The actual issue. We'll move on.
the
to
actual
cover.
issue? I think it's as if I would say, okay, I feel like murdering I don't know whom, but since I have family and siblings, I can do anything I want and I won't be punished. Like, I think it's actually almost made me giggle when I heard you read that out loud. That he claims that it would breach his human right to a family life if he's actually destroying family lives. So it's kind of contradictory.
Yeah, very ironic indeed. So the link he has to the terrorists is that he's a close associate of Jamel Begal, a convicted terrorist who mentored 2 of the Paris attackers while they were in jail together.
And it's not just that. Benghazi had initially been imprisoned in France over a plot to blow up the US Embassy in Paris. And that was foiled after he was arrested in Dubai Airport in September 2001. Just to say, Dubai Airport is quite far from the UK. So if it was that worried about his family, he shouldn't have flown there.
No. I don't even know.
Just being a bit.
I don't even know because, yeah, it's just, why is he still in the UK? He says he is scared he will face torture if sent home.
I don't think that's a problem, because in Norway now we have had Mullah Krekar in the country.
Who's that?
A terrorist.
I'm so confused. Okay, but continue.
But anyway, he's been in the country, and when we changed government, 2 years ago, the right-wing party is in government in Norway now. They promised the people to deport him out of the country. That was one of their main goals. But now it's been questioned by the newspaper in Norway why he hasn't left yet. And they say they can't do it. And what I think is that the government in the UK and Norway, they're afraid that if they send these people out, their country is going to be attacked. That is the reason why they don't do it. It's because they are afraid of the consequences, because they must have threatened.
Or maybe even within the country, that if they actually push him out, that maybe he has others to come.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
He will punish the government if they send him out.
Do you think it's for that reason? I think he thinks about himself more than for this thing.
No, of course, but authorities, the fact, it's actually ridiculous when you think about it, that how is it not possible that such powerful people cannot push out one person of a country? So it must be tied to fear, because otherwise they wouldn't care. Yeah. They would just kick him out and say hasta mañana.
It's quite. There was a quote from Lord Evans. There was the former head of MI5. Sorry. Today on the paper there was a comment about the law, and he said that this law, the human rights law, no longer fit for purpose. So, because probably was made quite long ago before or this jihadist threaten and things like this. So they said that it doesn't fit, and they are really, really scared. They were talking about even put under control Facebook and WhatsApp and Snapchat, which is the same thing that Cameron was talking about with Obama when he went to visit there. So the law that they made quite long ago, probably they are not enough no more to face this new problems and new threat.
That's true. And you're correct, Emily. One individual, one powerful nation can't send one person back, but they can forgive a criminal. The U.S. president has the ability to forgive, to pardon a criminal, but they can't send someone back.
I don't know. It makes no sense.
It's just... So, Chris Grayling, the Justice Secretary of the UK, said it's a nonsense that people who are a threat to our society are able to use their human rights to avoid being sent back to their home country when it is clear they have no regard for the human rights of our citizens. That's why it is time to scrap Labour's Human Rights Act and put in place a completely new approach to human rights laws, which means that this kind of thing can be stopped. Only the Conservatives would do that. I don't like this when people quote stuff and put it against two parties, one of a Conservative and Labour. It's just the country, Yeah. I think either country would, other political party, Green, Liberal, Democrats, Conservatories, and Labour would all feel the same way, It's just...
It's quite a delicate topic, because you're talking about human rights. So this is one case, and you see this man that actually was a terrorist. We can say that. He tried to blow up something. Mm-hmm. So, more than this. And I don't want to call him a Muslim. I want to just call him a terrorist, because for me, it's just that, the definition. It doesn't matter exactly his religion. But it's quite complicated then define the Human Rights Act, because it's a powerful instrument. And if you just start to change it, then you need to be careful, because it can actually go in other points and affect other people that might not have the right to, they have the right to stay instead of being sent back just because they fear or something. I don't know how the human rights law is in the other countries, but I think that is quite delicate topic to touch.
But I think it's actually pretty unfair, especially I know that in Austria, for example, there are so many people actually seeking asylum who are educated, who are escaping war, or people who actually just intend to have a better life, and they're not given the Austrian citizenship or any citizenship because, I don't know, the government says, okay, we already have enough of them. But then they keep someone like him who is obviously not wanting to be a citizen of the UK in terms of integration and respect. And for me, I think, honestly, I can't see beside fear, where there lies the difference, the difficulty, because Human Rights Act must be about protecting human people, and so you don't have to define it as very specific, but only those who are like intending to harm others have to like either be jailed or kicked out of the country. Like, I mean, and make space for the good ones.
Make space for the good ones. What about Pan? What do you think about this?
I like in China in Chinese we have two different words for like citizen, normal people, or who is a kind of criminals or terrorists.
Okay, what are those words?
公民,
which means
those people are protected by the laws or the human rights. And another word is 人民, which means they are not protected by the laws, by the rights. So for me, it's like if he is in China, he's definitely not protected by any laws or human rights. Like Chinese government would say, you are a criminal, you are a terrorist, so we have the right to kick you out or something like that. They don't care about actually human rights.
Actually, it's so true. Like, I was thinking
Don't
about...
really care in general about human rights. It was really funny, Pan, sorry.
But it's true. Compared to Edward Snowden, he was flying across, I think, the countries, and he apparently, like, they wouldn't let him stop at France, Italy, a different country, because they say, you cannot arrive at my airport, you have to fly a different country. And it's like, what is this difference between Edward Snowden and a terrorist? A whistleblower who published things about national security and surveillance programs, and a terrorist who killed individuals. It's just like, where does your priorities lie, countries?
I think it's not that easy. With Snowden, I was kind of angry with Norway when they didn't give him asylum. But I think that no one wants to go to war against America. Everyone is so
that's
afraid
the main point.
for America. And the same with like this guy in England now that they won't send out. The government is afraid for his organization and what they will do if they send him out of the country. It's all about fear here. So that's what I believe.
I agree.
Right, that's just a good way to end it. Not our show, but the end of that little part. We're going to move on to the Observer front page. This is the headline that says, ISIS using British female jihadists to incite terror acts. Experts track 30-strong UK cohort in Syria, and it reveals that women's disturbing new role in terrorism. And the Observer says a hardcore British women who have travelled to Syria to fight with Islamic extremists are encouraging other women at home to carry out terrorist attacks in the UK. The paper quotes figures from King's College London suggesting some 30 British women are based in northern Syria. I don't even know. What is this, people? You're killing individuals. Why would you encourage other people? Leave it to yourself to kill people if you want to, but stop trying to bring people over to your bad side. This is your fight. You deal with it on your own.
No, but like the definition bad, that's relative.
Yeah, I know, but...
Like for them, that's the good side, so...
True.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think, from the International Center for the Study of Radicalization at King's College as well, they mention the women's role actually as passive ones. So to travel actually to Syria, marry jihadists, bear their children away from the front line, so not always for fighting reasons. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just informing, and that now actually they tell British women, but I guess not only in Britain, they tell them via social networks that, oh, you actually don't even have to leave Britain. You don't have to come to Syria. You can just do the attacks at your hometown and where you are. And so this is actually the dangerous thing, that they don't only promote them to come to Syria, but to actually tell them, hey, you can also do that at home. Don't worry about your flight.
But it's the same thing that actually males are doing as well. Because there are many, many, many activists on Twitter and Facebook, on the social network, that are carrying on this action of radicalization among their group. And they're both men and women. It's quite... it's funny that, obviously for us, the fact that women are included as well in this group, that they are mainly composed by male, that we are used to heard about it, composed by male. It's quite weird, because it's like, oh, the female action, and the female comes in, because they do not allow female to fight, so they have the same, then, job that the male have of Twitter, through Twitter, Facebook, and just gather people for their cause. I don't think there is any difference between them. They are terrorists anyway. If their radicalization goes in this sense.
Yes, of course. I mean, they would be extreme if they do that.
Yeah.
But I remember there were some cases. I'm sorry that I'm always talking from Austria, but this is what I observed as well. That there are like girls who like 14, 15. They flee from home. The parents are actually not even Muslims sometimes, or like very, very moderate ones. And then they flee home, they flee and go to Syria, and suddenly like their parents report them missing and find out, oh my God, my daughter is actually in Syria bearing a child, like because two girls wanted to actually come back to Austria because they were pregnant. And then what do? Do you let them in because they're very young and they didn't really know what they're doing, or do you take them seriously that they actually went to Syria to bear the children of a jihadist, and won't there be any consequences then? So I don't really know how I find this.
I think everyone is just looking to have a purpose. A lot of young people in the UK, when they found out that they didn't get into the colleges or universities that they wanted, they were looking for opportunities. What are they going to do now? And then they find ISIS and people from that group. They contact them and like give their life a meaning and say, this is your purpose. You can come here and be important to us. And maybe that's what this article is displaying, that bored like housewives of women who doesn't really feel like they're doing anything. They find purpose in this, and that's why they're doing it.
I think they are talking about mainly, in this case, women coming from a Muslim community, just in this piece, okay? I'm not saying
no,
that
not
doesn't
only
affect...
UK women. It doesn't say anything about...
It doesn't say anything,
about
okay,
Muslims.
because I've heard another one talking about that. Because, I mean, this topic is actually pretty...
broad.
Yeah, it's pretty broad, so that's what I heard. But yeah, it's true. You have this radicalization from everyone, not just from the Muslim community.
Yeah, but that's correct, Camilla. I mean, well, before I come back to that point about people who are bored at not getting into university, they are, I think, a bit frustrated at that because women historically have been used in suicide bombings, which means they're done with that one action, you know, they bomb themselves and they're dead. And singular operations, so not in a group. So I think there's an issue of representing females in terrorism, not saying that they should be represented or even terrorism should even be represented at all, but I think that's where it sort of lies. I think the issue of people who do this kind of terrorism attacks, they still view females as not being pivotal in their fight across the world. Now, back to your point about people who are bored and people who are looking for people who are bored, who are not getting into university. If you don't get into university, it is not the end of your life. Go find a job.
Work at
But it's not their
McDonald's.
like new job.
Oh, my new job. That's gonna go.
Come on. I mean,
earn the living, please, people. Do not join. It's like
you can find a better goal in your life than
exactly.
blow yourself up. Okay,
it's like internet security 101. If someone says, "Join me in my quest to better the world by killing individuals," Don't reply to them.
I don't think that's their like
No,
selling
but-
point. But
Something more. This is ISIS. Come join us. No, but teenagers who don't get to university, there is a much better life out there than having a gun in your hand or a knife. You
Or a
could
bullet in your heart 5 seconds after, maybe. But just saying, yeah?
exactly. There is more to your life than university and crime. We're going to cut to another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about The Mail and Federica's favorite paper, The Independent. They're two front pages. This is The Fourth Estate. I'm Jim Wong, joined by Amelie, Federica, Pan, and Camilla.
When I was little.
It's just a little bit after 5 p.m. on this Monday afternoon, and the sky's turning a bit dark now. And now you're joined on The Fourth Estate at Radio Brunel, Brunel's University student-run station. I am your host, Jim Wong, and today we're joined by 4 international women, Federica, Amelie, Pan, and Camilla, as we talk about the top news and issues of the week. Today we're covering the headlines of the major papers across the UK and the front pages. We're moving on to everyone's favorite paper, The Mail. And as usual, the headline is massive and big, bold, black font. 2 Eds hid truth about global crash. Apparently, Ed Miliband and Ed Balls had urged ex-PM Gordon Brown to hold an early election in 2007 because they foresaw the financial crash. A Labour spokesman has called it complete nonsense. So they apparently knew that the UK economy was due to fall off a cliff, but kept it a secret. And, you know, I mean, this is why I do it after every single headline. I don't know how to do about this. But what do you guys think about this?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they kept it to themselves to save first their own stuff. And as Chancellor George Osborne said, they were more interested in saving their own skins than saving the British economy, which I think is a pretty legitimate statement in this case. If it was really...
Let's say just first that the Mail is like more pro-Tories than what like Cameron is probably, okay? So just, it's completely on that side. But then we need to say as well that once this news came out, Ed Miliband didn't deny it. So it was probably true that they had documents that were proving this kind of economic crash that was coming up. Maybe they didn't even see this huge crash. Maybe they've just seen. They just saw bad data or something. But we are talking about politics, so transparency is just completely another word. Like they are not gonna be transparent with you. It doesn't matter who they are, Labour, Tories, they are politicians.
But I think like politicians they have responsibilities for the countries.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful view.
It's a big problem. See the economic in the UK or even in the Europe, it's a really big problem. They're, no matter who they are, if they have some documents or some numbers to show, they should at least do something to prevent it happen or to save it.
They should, but I think they have all like somehow how to phrase it in a nice way.
I think that every one of them won't just win the election, okay? So starting from this point, then everything else comes just after.
But like if they want to win the election, that means they want to do something for the country. They want to.
Yeah, but it's also something for themselves. It's a bit like, I can understand, it's true. They have maybe amazing policy and amazing idea, and if you do that, it means that you believe in something for your country. But then power is something that corrupts you a bit.
Yeah,
I think this is the beginning of a trash campaign, like all the paper against each other in the political election that's coming up. This is just the beginning. It's going to get worse. So yeah.
That's why I started saying that they are so pro-Tories and they are just going to kick each other ass with maybe tomorrow someone is going to come up with another NHS headline against the Tories, because they're going to be their answer, and then they're going to stress on economy again, because that's the main point apparently for Cameron. Their strong economy. So it's true what Camilla said. It's just a way.
It's going to be a smash out there. It's going to be everyone out for each other. They're going to draw blood. And that is so true, because I was reading stuff online about Nick Clegg. And Nick Clegg is not a dumb politician. He's an incredibly intelligent man. So is Ed Miliband. But the way the papers have portrayed each individual just ruins all the credibility out there. Ed Miliband not able to compose himself properly in public, being unable to eat a sandwich properly or whatever. It's just like, what? That is not important. I don't care how they look in public. I care about how they carry out the policies. Yeah. And recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago or last week, they had an issue of Derek Cameron talking about securities and imposing, clearing, I think, more about encryption or decryption, something along those, about computer security. And Nick Clegg went, I think, on Radio 4 or Radio 5 Live and talked about how this is ridiculous. And he made such incredibly smart points that are so relevant to today's society and that people should really agree upon, because people now view Nick Clegg as a person who does nothing. They're not going to vote for him. And it's sad because he sold himself for the enemy, and he was in the coalition. That was the view. Yeah, but also it's like Obama. He didn't do really much in his first year in U.S. presidency, but now in his second year of presidency, he's doing all like executive orders. He's like, I want this to happen. I want that to happen. You know, I'm going to put my words into actions, and it's just. There's more to politicians than saying, I will do this. There's a whole thing behind those closed doors about politics within politics. People saying, if you support me on this thing, I'll support you on that thing. And it's such a huge battle. I think it's important for people to recognize that. And that just because something didn't really go out to plan, didn't mean they didn't try their hardest. You know, just because Nick Clegg couldn't push his certain policies, doesn't mean he never tried. Politics is made out of a compromise. Everything is a compromise. So maybe it's true what you were saying, Pan. They come with good idea and good motivation for their country. But then they're human. And the country is made human. And the politicians inside there are human as well. So everyone wants to achieve his own goal. And to do that, you need to go to a compromise
and make sacrifices.
That's politics. It's not bad or good. It's just what's happened. I'm not just judging anything in this case, really. And
just to final add on this issue is that so it took two people to recognize what was happening in the financial crash. The entire parliament is made up of more than two people. Were you relying on Ed Miliband and Ed Bowles to recognize financial crashes? You guys should be out there, MPs all around the world, all around the UK. Don't rely on someone to say something's going to happen. Let's fix it now. Think about it in your own point of view. I mean, if they fail to notify the world about this crash, what's your excuse? Other MPs, you just didn't know about it. You didn't really care about the financial crash. Don't rely on the other person. Rely on yourself. Take some responsibility. Take some blame. You know.
I mean, I'm sure that they won't be the only one who knew.
No.
Exactly.
I'm sure as well.
Because from where would they knew? I mean, they are not like on top of everything, knowing everything, and no one else would know. Because, I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, of course, more people knew.
Yeah, it goes up bigger than that. Yeah. Our last headline comes from The Independent, and I think Federica has something to say about this image, this front page picture of The Independent with the headline, A Failure of Justice. Federica, tell us more about this image
this guy is not fair at all. I just really... Oh, this is weird sound. I just really like the front page of The Independent, their choice of putting this big image. I don't know who is the photographer, but I just want to clap my hands to him, because like at least 8 times out of 10 this picture is so good. I'm so sorry. It doesn't really matter what the headline is, which in this case I think it's quite good because it explained pretty clearly what you're going to talk about, and it's a good portrait of this man. let's say that the title is a failure of justice, and they are talking about the case of Victor Nielsen, who served 17 years of a life sentence for attempted rape before DNA evidence proves someone else committed the crime. And the paper says he has never been compensated and that under a new law he never will be. So they are talking about the life in jail of this guy and of this big injustice. And I think that the picture that they've chosen to represent him and to portray him it suits him perfectly. That's why I like it that much.
It's interesting then to note that this is a paper that only had this picture on as a headline, and as news as a headline, everything else covered different stories. I mean...
Yeah, they often do that. They often do like pretty strong choice for front pages. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, now this thing about when I read the description of the case and the headline story about being wrongly convicted of rape, I thought about Chet Evans. If you guys have been following Chet Evans and how he's been convicted of rape,
yeah.
I don't know how to make it, because I don't want people to think it's a sort of excuse for Chet Evans or anyone who's been convicted of rape, saying who don't believe they raped somebody, to say, oh, look at Mr. Newland, he was wrong to be convicted of rape. That means there's like hope for me. I think it's on a case-to-case basis. So just because Victor Newland was wrongly convicted of rape doesn't mean everyone else is. And Chet Evans, I don't know, but it's just, don't take it like that, But back to Victor Newland. A lot of things about wrong convictions. I mean, we listened to and Federica and I have been listening to NPR's podcast Serial about a case in Baltimore in the U.S. about Adnan Syed, who's been in prison for several years now for murdering his ex-girlfriend, and people looking into whether he was actually the one to commit it. So this could be signifying a new change in reporting the news about crime, is that people now will be looking at old cases and seeing whether they were actually convicted or not due to new technology. But yeah, I
think we should say first of all that The Independent is talking about two cases.
Yep.
That one of Victor, and the other one about this guy that is called Sam Halam. Okay, I'm sorry for the pronunciation if it's wrong. So they are just talking about these two cases. I don't want to generalize, like going back to this big word of before. I think it shouldn't have happened, okay? We shouldn't have not even one example of these mistakes, because we were talking about life of people, so it's important, like, life in jail is not life in a kindergarten, okay? So it shouldn't have happened, not even one case. But we can't generalize and say that the law is bad. Probably there are other cases where the law actually worked perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is actually very... Okay, yeah. What I think is actually weird, funny, I don't know how to put it. They make a big case of, and even the front page of this case, and saying it's a failure of justice. But then on the other hand, I actually saw today that that Mohamedou Ould Slalu, I'm sorry for that pronunciation, he published a Guantanamo diary, and or it's going to be published next week. And I mean, he wrote a book about being in Guantanamo actually for a decade, and without any conviction. And actually, the judge also said there's no proof of him being guilty of anything, but they can't really release him yet, and there's actually no reason given. And he has been tortured and sexually abused and blah blah. And he's not the only case in Guantanamo. And there is a huge failure of justice there as well, and there are like hundreds of inmates where there is actually not with each case a valid reason for that. So, I mean, of course, I think it's horrible. I'm feeling with Chris Grayling. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm feeling with Victor Neelan, who served this 17 years. But he's not the only one. And Guantanamo is like, everyone knows about it for ages. Obama said he wanted to change something about it, didn't. And I mean, it's always in front of us. And I don't know when I saw that last on a front page.
No, I actually read about that, but it's ironically that Obama wants to change it because it's the American CIA that is actually torturing and creating this. So,
yeah, the main case I think the Independent wanted to stress, and with this I don't want to take the side of the Independent or against. I'm just saying what they were talking about in the piece. Is that this man now came out of jail, but is not going to be compensated for the mistake because the law has changed, and he has not the right anymore of a compensation apparently.
But do you think that the inmates of Guantanamo, if they're released once, they get compensation?
I think every one of them should have the same actually right. So I'm talking about the fact that I think he should have had a compensation. They inmates from Guantanamo should have had a compensation, and with this, I think that it's just a symbol to say we should check a bit better our justice system, but not saying that he's actually a total crap. Because maybe for Guantanamo is a different thing. I've never read it, but you're talking about a huge number. Here we're talking about 2 cases, maybe more, because they didn't talk and they didn't come out saying it. Probably it's true, but we're talking about 2 cases in the UK, and UK has quite a huge population. So I'm saying that it's a mistake that shouldn't happen. Really, shouldn't happen, because you're talking about their life. They should have had a compensation, and the law should change again, because it's not right. It's completely wrong. I mean, at least a compensation. I don't think you can exchange years of your life for money. I don't think it's exactly the same. But it's a way of kind of doing something, because you can do much more than that. So that's what is wrong for me.
I want to change it around because in England it's so many rape convictions that doesn't even get put on by a judge.
True, very true.
And I think it's a good thing that the Independent chose this front page and that they publish this story, but if you look at it the other way around, there are so many women and guys probably that doesn't have a conviction, and they have to live their life in fear as well.
Yeah, it didn't come in my mind, but I read about it. It's true. That's a huge state about it, that there are many rape not convicted. Yeah, true.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's always an issue of people who have been wrongly convicted and how they're going to readjust to real life, because, you know, even though he's been cleared of this charge, people will still remember him as, you are in prison, why should I hire you? Even though it's a wrong conviction, he can tell it to employers saying, I was wrongly convicted and I was innocent. But who actually believes that? Who will take a chance on a person who went to prison? It's always that issue of people who've been released from prison and trying to find a job. You know, we owe it to humanity to believe the best in people, and to believe that when they're out of prison, they have a right to a second chance at finding a new life.
I don't think that is the problem. The problem is being gone for 17 years, and think about the technology and everything that's happened in 17 years. If he goes into a job now with the qualification that he had when he went into prison, it won't mean anything, because the world has moved on, and he doesn't probably have the skill to go after the job he probably would have 17 years ago.
Yeah, like in China, many prisoners even refuse to get out of the prison because they fear the society. They fear what is going on during the time when they are in prison. So it's a big problem. It can't be paid by money or something.
And that's very true, because people believe, in prison, you've got food coming and you've got a place to stay. Out in the real world, they got to find that on their own, and it's terrifying for anyone who's been out of the world for like 17 years because gotta find a job. And like Mr. Neelan, his family has all he's died, and he's the only one alive. Who can he turn to? His friends might be like, "Oh, you're in prison. We don't talk to you anymore." It's like, where does he turn to help? The state can help a little bit, but only for a few years.
It's quite impressive because the only thing he said was that he wanted to clean his name to start a new life. Because the only thing left actually to him as a aim to go on with his life is this like justice, like the word justice. So he wants justice, and he's gonna sue the court. He's gonna sue in court the Secretary of Justice that convicted him. And I think this is a huge symbol of the fact that it's gonna be complicated for this man after 17 years go back to normal life. From what for us is normal, because for him it's not gonna be normal again. 17 years completely detached to the world is not gonna be the same life that you were living before, so it's not going to be the same normality, if you want to call it like that.
We didn't even have a computer 17 years ago.
He wouldn't. Yeah,
that's a long time ago. Oh my god. Moving on to covering not the front pages, but now other stories that have hit the news and people's attention across the world. As everyone knows, Saudi Arabia and a blogger. It seems like an entire family has been prosecuted in Saudi Arabia. A lawyer who founded a human rights group was sentenced to 15 years in prison. His wife, a woman's advocate who won a courage award from the State Department, she is barred from leaving the country. And then her brother, even more, a writer who ran a liberal online forum, is also in jail and was sentenced to be caned regularly in a public square over the next few months. Now, international condemnation of the writer's sentence, which also includes a prison term and a heavy fine, has mounted since the video has been appeared on YouTube of him being caned in public. What did I say? So it's like similar to Charlie Hebdo, because that freedom to do things and freedom to question, and that online forum he is not the one saying his comments. He is just hosting it, and it's always, yes, you are the host in the comments, but yeah, what do you guys think, Camilla?
Oh, can't someone else?
He was actually Saudi government critic, and his name was Raif Badawi, and what I think was so ironic, and I write about it today, was that I think a part of his sentence is like 1,000 lashes, and so, but I think he hasn't received all of them yet, so he had already last week 50, but now he went to the doctor to get his health checked, to actually see if he would be able to receive the next part of the lashes, which is pretty weird to go to the doctor and ask, who is actually meant to help you generally. And the doctor was like, oh well, this time maybe take a break for 1 week with him.
And on the 15 lashes, okay? So next time,
because he wouldn't be able to bear the next 50 lashes. So wait a week, and then you can torture him again.
It's completely creepy.
I mean, what the hell?
I think that they can't afford, as a reputation of the government, to kill him.
I think Saudi Arabia doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah, but now he became a face known in the old world. So, true, the other government are doing nothing because Saudi Arabia has oil, and that's the main reason. So they can't really threaten them because they're, for example, they're helping America to just destroy Russian economy, and there's an amazing circle of oddities. But apart from that, they can't afford him to die now because his face is well known. So they know already that he has been sentenced at 50 lashes every Friday, nice on the square. But they can't. They need to keep him alive.
I think,
but that's my thought. It's just my thought.
I think then maybe he would accidentally die, or I think
Maybe disappear, you know, but they need to just...
Oh no, they need to keep him alive, because if he dies under their watch, it's going to be huge controversy and a huge
But Saudi
public
Arabia
action.
is facing like, I mean, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. I mean, they're like criticizing Saudi Arabia also for women's rights since ages already. So why would they now hear and listen to Amnesty International? Like,
It's just that
That
you
is
have a
true.
case and you have a face. When you are talking generally about the right that you don't have, that a woman doesn't have in South Arabia, you're talking about a community and you don't have an example. And it's so powerful have a face that is going to stand for this.
but isn't it more powerful that you have so many people
Yeah.
that you don't have a face
Yeah,
to
no,
it?
but since, like, I think it's just a consequence of what's happened recently with the Charlie Hebdo. And so we were talking about freedom of expression, and everyone was talking about freedom of expression. And even, oh, come on, the South Arabia was in the first line marching during, like, next to France almost, okay? So I think that it's just in this moment that they can't afford it. Maybe in a couple of months, I think they hope actually that in a couple of months everyone is just gonna go silent, and then they are gonna go back doing whatever they were doing. They don't really care about it. They care just to keep it silent as much as they can, because what they care about is their economy, and what the West care mainly about, I know that is so cynic, but it's their economy and the fact that they have oil.
Yeah, but they can't really keep it. It's not silent anymore, because everywhere in Europe, I guess in the US already as well, in front of the embassies of Saudi Arabia, there are so many protesters, and like there's also a hashtag for him, and
Yeah,
I
but
think like how do you
isn't he-
want to? I mean, and the fact if they would like suddenly pretend to be like, oh yeah, okay, I will go with you guys. I will change my route. I honestly would get suspicious, because I would be like, okay, why suddenly do you care about human rights? Like, what happened here?
I think it's just another, like, it's a consequence. It might be linked to other interests of the country, and it's linked, I'm sure of that. The only thing I'm sure of it is linked of the Charlie Hebdo and this huge rise pro freedom of expression that has caused. I think is linked with that. Like, it's a global atmosphere, and that's why his face came up after. I think he was in jail even before Charlie Hebdo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So like no one was talking about him, and then suddenly he came up.
I don't know. But just to address some issues about that Charlie Hebdo, or the Prime Minister and President who went for the protest in Paris, I think all of them who came for that rally are heads of state. They've all done crimes against journalism, crimes against freedom of expression, and you know it's just ironic that these countries who support Charlie Hebdo, apparently, they don't even support journalists in their home country. And to add on to this, Al Jazeera journalists have been in jail in Qatar, I think, for over a year now. And they were so big to begin with, and they've sort of just fallen off the map a little bit, but they're still in jail for criticizing, I think, the Qatar government. And so there's one part of me that believes that hopefully they will release the Raif Badawi, hopefully soon. But also I'm a bit cynical about the idea that they might actually not release him at all, because they just wouldn't. And I don't think any country is going to, the US or UK is going to actually make a case for them to be released. It's up to Amnesty, maybe the UN, if they wanted to do it, to advocate for this. But I don't think it's going to happen until something else is going to change in the world. But I don't see it as a viable option.
There was just a really curious thing that came in my mind. There was this account on Twitter of this guy that during the protest in Paris was tweeting the fact that many of the world's leaders. They were actually marching.
Daniel Webb?
Daniel, yeah, exactly.
Daniel Wickham,
and it was
right?
like, first, King Abdullah of Jordan, which last year sentences a Palestinian journalist to 15 years in prison with hard labor. Second, Prime Minister, sorry for the name, Davu something of Turkey, I'm so sorry, which imprisons more journalists than any other country in the world. And then the Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, whose force killed 7 journalists in Gaza last year, second after Syria. And then there is the Foreign Minister of Egypt, which as well as Al Jazeera staff,
Egypt,
the jail Al Jazeera
Egypt,
staff,
Qatar,
exactly.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then the Foreign Minister of Russia, Lavrov, which last year jailed a journalist for insulting a government servant. Like I can't go
the list
exactly.
just goes on
Just
and
like
on.
everyone was there, and that's the consequence. And everything, I mean, came up just because of what's happened to Charlie Hebdo, and that's why I think everyone is talking about this blogger, which is completely right. We should talk about it, and we should talk about it more. Just the problem is that we are gonna forget about him in a couple of weeks, and we shouldn't.
No, but I think every one of these prime ministers and representatives, they're doing this because what they have in common is that they have a fight against ISIS, and they're using this as like their way of getting out to people and reach out to people and make people stand by them instead of ISIS. But also America is not gonna support Saudi Arabia. They're not gonna force Saudi Arabia to release this guy, because America, they rely on Saudi Arabia to keep pumping the oil market with oil, which sucks for Norway, but yeah, anyway.
Indeed. Moving on to the next story about Charlie Hebdo again as well. There's been more protests happening across the entire world. At least 5 people were killed on Saturday in protests in Niger. And Saudi Muslim leader organizes legal action against Charlie Hebdo over Muhammad cartoons. The Saudi Arabia-based Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, is planning to sue the magazine following its publication of a front cover depicting the Prophet Muhammad. And this comes after so many protests happening in Nigeria, Pakistan and Algeria, while the Iranian authorities banned a daily paper for a front-page headline allegedly offering Charlie Hebdo its support. Yeah, it was bound to happen. People protesting against Charlie Hebdo. And while I'm curious as to how Charlie Hebdo was going to respond to all these protests, because it is centered around the issue. Are they going to say, well, not my fault, they're protesting, I mean, we print, it's not whatever happens. I mean, are they going to say, we shouldn't have printed it? Because I think they should print their own issue, but are they going to say, different country, not my issue? Anyone?
I think that they were doing what they've always been doing. They've been provoking people and provoking religion and heads of governments, and that's what they've always been doing. So I don't think they've done something new by printing this issue. It's just that people wanted to read this issue and support freedom of speech and support the magazine, and that's why the number sold of magazines is so high and it's reached a global audience. I don't think they've done anything in particular what they would have done before the shooting. It's just that the world media has seen it and it's on the world news agenda now.
Someone said, Amadou Abdul Ohab on Newsweek, he said they offended our Prophet Muhammad, and that's what we didn't like. On NPR, I think one of the NPR reports, they asked people across the world, and especially in the US, and people who are actually Muslim comedians who mock their own religion. But they said if anyone offends our Prophet Muhammad, that's a different issue. And I think that's important to note, is that they're fine with you mocking our religion, but if you're going to offend our Prophet, that's a different line to take. That's a line you cross. And I think that holds water. Charlie Hebdo can use Muslim to be mocked, but why use the Prophet all the time? You can mock anyone, any individual who's Muslim, but when people are going to be upset when you insult their main figure, like if we insult the Jesus Christ.
But they have done it.
Yeah.
They've done it, but I mean, you've seen. I mean, I don't I don't know how it's going to turn out if they actually do it, but it's just that issue of...
I think it's like, come on, guys, we are talking about satire, okay? We are not talking about a newspaper.
No.
We are not talking about a TV channel. We're not talking about the BBC and its code of practice. We are talking about satire. Satire needs to be filthy, dirty, and offend someone. If not, it's not satire.
Yeah, that's
So, okay, we're talking about a delicate topic. We're talking about Muslim. But, Jesus, Charlie Hebdo was really offending, if you want to use this word. Everyone. So, I don't get the answer. Are you offended? Are you going to kill me because you're offended?
True.
That is not an answer.
No, it's not. I mean...
You can offend me with the same, you use the same weapons if you want.
Draw me.
I don't know, draw me, yeah. Use the same weapons, because that was the, like, it's funny. You said draw me, laughing. So that means that it was just a draw. And they've been killed for a draw. Okay, it was satire. They thought they were offended. Their religion and whatever they believe. And I can get it that they can be offended, because it's not my culture. So my point of view, it's completely different. I have a more open point of view because I've been grown up like that. That's how it happens. But it's not a good reason. There is nothing that justify killing someone.
Maybe also because you're not, as I'm not emotional about my religion, and I'm not emotional about my beliefs. And I know I have friends of mine who are Muslims, who are like me, who are like, I mean, I'm Muslim, I'm also religious, but I'm not very emotional about that. So he's like, my friends, they're making fun of being Muslims, as if Jewish friends of mine are making fun of being stereotypical Jews, or we make fun of conservative friends. I mean, humor, honestly, humor is healthy. You should mock everything and everyone and be open about getting it back. I mean, as I said, humor is not the truth. I can get the fact that it's another culture, so their point of view is completely different, and I can't not even trying, I can get it, because I know it's completely different culture, but it's not a good reason. But it's not even in a culture. It's not like...
No, not the culture. The culture of terrorism, of extremism, not the Muslim culture.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about that. Absolutely, I want to specify. You're right. I'm not talking about being a Muslim.
What I want to say,
yeah, go ahead. Pat.
What I want to say is I think it's a cartoon. It can't hurt anyone. The funny thing is everyone know that in China the censorship is really restrict. So journalists or writers can't criticize the government or can't criticize the politics, but they can draw. They can use cartoons to market them. So even in China, cartoon can't hurt anyone. Can't hurt the reputation of any famous people. So I think it's not a big deal. The most important thing is how the world reacted to this thing. I think the Muslim is afraid of the whole world is trying to buy the magazine to kind of think Muslims are dangerous. That is the dangerous part, but it's not about the cartoons or the magazine itself.
Excellent point, Pat. Now, we're going to move out over into your area of the world, China, covering news and happening over China. So, a few months ago, I think in 2014, Hong Kong caught headlines over student protests around democracy. So, 4 Hong Kong student leaders were released without charge on Friday after assisting police with an ongoing investigation into more than 2 months of pro-democracy protests that paralyzed parts of Asia's financial center. Dozens of protesters holding yellow umbrellas that have become a symbol of the city's democracy movement shouted, "I want universal suffrage," and support the students before the group entered the police station. So, Pan, what do you think about that? Because I agree that it was a good thing to protest about democracy of elections being free from China's interference in their elections. But also, again, they were hugely inconvenient, I think, to the financial industry, blocking out the streets with their protests.
Yeah.
It's responsible, but also irresponsible as well.
Yeah, like one of the leader, Josh once said that the umbrella movement would continue, but when the Hong Kong leader said, Liang Zhenying, he said like, yes, Hong Kong need democracy and Hong Kong need something like a free market or something, but he said those students who protested in the street, they have no idea of what is the law of Hong Kong, what is the rules. They should come up with like a better idea or come up with another way to protect their rights. So it's kind of really hard to say what they should do at this stage, but yesterday I read the news about the Hong Kong leader. He said like Hong Kong have to make a choice between implementing the universal suffrage and a standstill in the economy. So it's kind of he kind of think it's time to save the economy in Hong Kong because it's a huge problem nowadays in Hong Kong. So I don't know, but
that's their main point. Like they are doing everything for the economy, and it's really it's funny seeing it from the outside because we've been kind of bombarded with this huge coverage of the umbrella movement at the very beginning, and then we just lost completely. Like we've lost completely the coverage on that, and no one cares about it anymore. And they didn't obtain what they wanted, what they were fighting for, because they didn't obtain these like little steps on their democracy.
Yeah, like
nothing changed.
Nothing changed. Like Chinese government and the Hong Kong government didn't respond to anything, and then those people still like holding their umbrellas everywhere in Hong Kong. Like they stopped the economic, they stopped the normal people's life, and nothing changed. And even though the leaders are still saying, okay, umbrella movement will continue as we're afraid. So it's...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's time to rethink a different strategy. If it's not working now, find a different way to make change.
Yeah.
Our next story is a Chinese boat has capsized on the Yangtze River and has killed 22 individuals. 22 people have been confirmed dead. The boat was actually 25 people on board, which means almost like the entire people died on board. And so 8 foreigners were on the board, including Singaporean, Indian, Malaysian, and Japanese nationals. Now, this is, I think, would be good to pair it together with AirAsia as well. AirAsia flight, because that's been hitting the headlines because it crashed recently and they found the black box, but they haven't determined the cause of the crash. Now, it's a lot of things happening in terms of transportation across the world, especially in terms of the Asian region with the Malaysian Airlines. Both one's gone missing, one was shot down in Ukraine. So, I mean, I don't know how to really discuss this issue because there's not really much of an issue I think we can really look into. Yeah. But I think what is interesting is, of course, these headlines of people saying, not these headlines, but as in people saying the airplane should be held responsible, which partially it should, but no one really knows the cause yet of these crashes. So why are we saying they are the problem when it could be anything else in the world? It could be the wrong place at the wrong time, you know.
Did it happen more than once or the same company?
No, because the Malaysian Airlines is one company, AirAsia is a different company, and so the Chinese boat as well. So, I mean, I don't know.
So we can't really
generalize
point like the finger to them. We should actually put a better track system on the plane so we will know at least where it hopefully is not going to happen again, but just in case of other accident we will find it a bit like sooner than what's happening now. But yeah, that's true, there is not much of talking about because we don't know the cause. So since we are not going to be informed with that, how can we discuss it?
That's correct. We're going to come to our last news of the show. And today's law show actually about freedom of expression and freedom of the press. Now, we're going to close on that actually as well, because Chinese television fans are furious after a big budget costume drama was censored for too much cleavage. Federico just like that. I know the story. But
It's
yeah.
so funny, come on.
So, the Empress of China, a big budget costume drama following the life of China's only empress, Wu Zetian, am I saying correctly? Wu Zetian?
武则天
Wu Zetian, okay, was mysteriously taken off air on the 21st of December before reappearing with few crucial changes. Fans have noted that wider shots displaying, among other things, the costumes of the period drama had been replaced
come
by
on, Jim,
closely...
come on, just cut it short. We're talking about boobies. They couldn't show boobies on TV, okay? That was the main
and
issue.
like
it's
that.
not the whole movie, it's just a part of it.
Boobies.
True, very true. They were actually covered boobies, guys.
No nipples involved.
No nipples
No.
involved. No, nothing. And there is a really funny
They hate
video
the cleavage.
where it shows like one of this scene shot it before, and then the cut that they've
They only
made,
have a
and
hat
straight
now.
after comes Putin that is riding the horse half naked, and then the China version of the picture that divulges the face, which is really funny. I'm so sorry for that. That's why I was laughing before. Anyway, yeah, in China you can't show boobies.
Does that mean that it doesn't show the Victoria's Secret show in China?
Yeah, we don't. And
Such a pity.
Camilla, don't go China. I don't think you will live very long. You'd be like, where's my Victoria's Secret fashion show? I need to watch that.
China now.
And the thing is, like, in the past time, like, we have models for the cars or something like that, but now they don't even allow these models because the Chinese government think, oh, they wear so little or something like that.
So anything that could be sexy is allowed unless you are dressed up like a Sailor Moon or a Pokemon and you're going in this weird shop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in, that is allowed. If not, no boobies, guys. Covered, okay?
So it is a historical drama, and there's a bit of an issue there as well. So first thing, China's broadcasting censors, which examines every drama, has previously banned a range of behaviors on the TV, including adultery, sexual abuse, nudity, ghosts, murder, rape, suicide, gambling, and drug uses. Now, issue of historical accuracy is that some individuals have claimed, not really true, but I don't really know, is that the lower the dress of a woman during the Tang Dynasty, the higher the status. These claims have been refuted by historical expert from Tsinghua University, who told that women who are free to wear low-cut dresses during the period, their breasts weren't deliberately squeezed as it appears in the contemporary film. So, yeah, I mean,
It's a big issue, isn't it?
it's interesting because they were allowed in history, but now we're back in the modern society where we're meant to have improved from there, but we still can't show cleavage. It's just...
But one thing I have to say is, like, this is not the authentic costume for the whole period. It's only for a short period. So, like, but the drama shows the whole life of Wu Zetian. But actually, in the early period of her life, it's not the authentic costume. But yes, it have nothing to do with the censorship. I just want to
Were they more like
no
covered
in
in the
the
authentic one?
like in the early
Would have
stage,
been more.
they have to cover more, like
Okay.
until the neck. But when Wu Zetian became the how to say the
The emperor?
emperor, like, then they changed the costume to
Open.
yeah,
Okay.
open, yeah.
But like just figure it out to be a Chinese sitting on your sofa and just switching on your TV and finding this episode, okay, which is basically just a change of first shot, like faces, another faces. That's all. Isn't it boring?
It's like all the photos together, not
Yeah,
a drama.
You can't have a movement of camera because maybe boobies can just squeeze in.
They're so naughty, these boobies.
Yeah.
His boobies are gonna wreck the world. And just on,
Oh, they are.
on that humorous note, we're gonna end our show. This is The Fourth Estate, and I'm your host, Jim Wong. And today I was joined by Amelie, Federica, Pan, and Camilla. You guys are free to say any closing remarks at the end of the show. Anything you guys want to say?
Nothing. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Until next time, join us again on Friday at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. as we talk about the issues and news of the week. I am Jim Wong, and I say goodbye to you as well.
You know I'm bad at communication. It's the hardest thing for me to do, and it's the most important part that relationships will go through. And I give it all away just so I could say that. But I know that you're gonna be okay anyway. You know there's no